for AP. And today I had a few important about. Make sure, guys, that you can hear me all right, and let me know if you can't. But sorry for everybody who was waiting. Some days it feels like it takes just a second to get the stream set up, and other days it feels like it takes 3 hours. Today it took literally almost an hour. Like my tripod doesn't work. It's a whole issue. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. Today I wanted to talk about micronational economies. This is something that has been of dire importance to the Empire of Aeternia, and is something that has been on my mind more and more frequently lately. If you haven't seen some of our previous videos where we talk about micronational economies at large, I definitely recommend you check that out, because it is an in-depth topic. It is something that we have spent many videos going over the details of and describing the niches of, because economics in general is hard enough, right? But going from general economics to this kind of microeconomics that we're dealing with micronations, microeconomics normally dealing with individual businesses, individual people, specific actors in an economy. We're in this mix with micronations where we're talking about these small scale things which have a lot to do with microeconomics, and these larger market factors which come into macroeconomics. First off, I'm glad to see everybody here. We have 6 viewers and 4 likes right now. I can't wait to see everybody and hear what you have to say about all this. I want to say hello to everybody who just joined. I see there was like 3 or 4 hellos. I really want to get into this topic though, so please excuse me for not describing and going into all of the comments right now. But if you can like the video and we can keep talking about this at the end of the stream, if you can hang on for an hour here, we will get to your topics and your questions. But first, for everybody who is watching after the fact, I really want to hit this topic. So that being the case, micronational economics deals with your nation, your country, whether you are the leader of that country or whether you are somebody who is a citizen of it, participating in it, and trying to understand why it is successful or why it's not successful. Now, a lot of people have their own ideation, their own hopes and dreams about what an economy should look like. If you're creating a micronation, one of the many reasons you may create one, and one of the more prominent reasons for people deciding to create one, is because of economic conditions in the nation that they come from. So you may be dissatisfied with the way that your government spends its money and the way that society has allocated its resources. For the Empire of Aeternia, for us, the reason that I started Aeternia, one of the biggest ones, is because I saw my family go through incredible poverty as a child. I watched this constant struggle of trying to make ends meet, and that was really frustrating for me. And so when you watch this video, understand that a lot of my understanding of economics and my practice of it has come from, learning more about it, reading up on it, trying to educate myself, but in no means am I an economist. I am somebody who is trying to understand and get more in depth in the field, but this is all going to be an overview. So for myself, I have found that one of the biggest and most valuable things that we can understand about micronations is that they work based around efficiency. We've talked about this a lot on the channel. I've mentioned it constantly in different videos, but the more that you can get out of each individual person's contribution to your nation, the more successful that nation is going to be. The leader of micronations are almost always constantly these people who are energetic and passionate about what they're doing. They're putting their time in, they're putting their nose to the grindstone, trying to do everything that they can to make sure that nation is successful. And a cicada decided to start chirping around me, so I hope that's not causing too many issues with the stream. But for the rest of us, for those people who are just entering a micronation, or for those people who, may be unsure about micronationalism, you would be somebody who comes in as a citizen, somebody who may not necessarily be giving 110% all of your time and efforts toward this. And so the goal of the nation that you're joining, or as a leader, the goal of the nation that you're leading, is to try to figure out how you can best use the time that people can give you out of all the time in their life to be able to try to utilize for the best results possible. Now, for somebody who is in a normal nation, a macronation, if you will, They are dealing with this enormous market, this enormous group of people who are around them who are constantly buying things and selling things and trading things. And almost all of these systems are capitalist. Now, capitalism is a system that has been incredibly useful for development up to the point that we are now. However, as we have continued to develop, we see that these very large and complex societies generally have very, very unequal distributions of wealth. And that even aside from politics or aside from your personal beliefs on that, does create an issue of efficiency. Because when a lot of people have a lot of resources, it does weigh down the rest of those people who may be able to do more with those resources if they weren't so concentrated. And this becomes especially important when you're talking about micronations, where it's not just some random group of people who all happen to be born in the same place. These are people hand-chosen to continue this project, to push forth an effort to develop a state and a society to benefit the group of people who were involved. So that being the case, you should not expect anybody in this society to be just hoarding resources. You should not expect anybody in this society to not be actively and consciously participating. So we have to base everything that we know about micronational economics on the assumption that the people that are in your micronation want to be there, want to work, want to put in efforts, and will contribute with the resources that they are given. That being the case, a completely capitalist society, a society in which there is absolutely no state funding or no state assistance for the people who are a part of it, one, doesn't benefit those people a lot, because as far as your legislation goes, as far as the laws and rights that people have, they will still be restricted by the macronations that they're a part of anyway. Unless you are able to completely free yourself from a macronation that you are bound to, you cannot tell people that something is legal for them that is not legal for other people in the outside macronation that they are a part of. So that being the case, you need to have some resources and benefits that you are providing to those people that give them an edge economically over everyone else in that macronation outside of there. So for your nation, there has to be some way to benefit, some way for anybody who becomes a part of this society, who reaches the required agreement to contribute properly, has an elevated opportunity that they wouldn't have had if they had just worked a 9-to-5, if they had just contributed to the general macronation that they're a part of. And so as we keep working on this and as we keep developing it, we find that we need to provide a lot of these resources as the states, as the government for these societies. We have to be able to implement things that give those additional benefits. And so where does this come from? It initially comes from your labor. So if you are somebody who says, well, my state is going to be completely libertarian, for example, my micronation is going to have absolutely no taxation. Everybody has to work and do for themselves. However, we have this land, but everybody needs to purchase their piece of it privately through their own collected wealth. Then there isn't a ton of benefit for them to join your nation. Unless you are providing these resources at incredibly low prices compared to the macronation they're a part of, they wouldn't have an incentive to take their money, which is valued and used everywhere in their macronation, and then focus it down and say, hey, I'm only going to contribute, or primarily going to contribute, to this little micronation that has a very limited pool of resources that may be just as expensive, if not more expensive, than the macronation that I'm a part of. So when we think about it from that context, from the context of somebody coming into your nation, the benefit for them to just use the capitalist system outside of your nation is much greater. So even if you are somebody who says, I enjoy capitalism, I like trying to limit taxes as much as possible on the people who are a part of my society, you may want to consider initially some more socialist attitudes toward the ground foundational elements of your economy. When you are developing these things that you are pushing so hard for your nation, you need to be able to look for a way to provide benefits very cheaply or even for free for the people who are a part of it. And that is just money that is lost initially. It is an investment. It is something that you are giving to these people that you don't expect back in any way. The way that you benefit from it, even though it doesn't make you that money back, is by their participation and contribution, which ultimately should increase the productivity of your nation and allow you to start producing and selling to the macronation outside of it at a more competitive rate. So that being the case, if I grow a garden, that garden took me some time. Sure, I could go out and sell the tomatoes that I have and the corn and the cucumbers, but if you go to a farmer's market, you are competing with all of these other people who are a part of this farmer's market, and you need to try and make the cost of your items less than the cost of their items. Otherwise, why is somebody purchasing from you? They could for ideological reasons, but in a general open macronational market, they're probably not incentivized to. For somebody who is specifically a part of your micronation, you can sell those things to them, but again, if it's more expensive than other places that they could go, while they may support you ideologically, it's tempting not to. So you have a very small pool of people who would be contributing to your economy, and from that, you have an even smaller pool of people who will actually do it and who will commit to it. From people who ideologically support you and would give more money to it, to the people who are ultimately going to continue to repetitively make what is a loss for them capitalistically to commit to doing it. So that being the case, it's a very small pool of people. If you're trying to get a return on your investment, if you're trying to make a profit on these 7 cucumbers you were able to produce, or these, 20 pounds of tomatoes or whatever, it's not a lot. You're not working at volumes where you can reduce your costs a ton. So you're going to be breaking even or in the red, negative, losing money more often than not. So at that point, if it's cheap enough for you to do it, you should provide these things for free. Say, hey, if you were to join the Empire of Aeternia, we have a garden that we're growing. And if you came and you worked and you helped us develop in some way, whether it's tending to that garden, or whether it's working on our website, or whether it's helping us in the Discord, or whether it's making YouTube videos, or whether it's helping us to build dwellings over at Vitae, you can have some of these tomatoes, you can have some of these cucumbers, you can have some of these onions. And we will provide that to you for free, so long as you're able to contribute just what you can to this society. And that seems a little strange, because how do you value that? How do you actually determine whether or not you're making a profit there? And I'm going to tell you, you're not. First off, hello, it's good to see everybody. Thank you guys for being in the video and liking it. But jumping back to this, moving from that point, you have now a stable foundation. There is a reason that that person has to give their time and efforts to you, because not everybody has the money to go out and spend and purchase groceries. There are some people who legitimately struggle with that, especially here in the United States. And so that being the case, when you are looking for people to join your micronation, you don't want people who are necessarily going to say, I'm looking for the best economic deal for me possible, in the sense that, money is no option for me. I can blow whatever I want. I'm trying to exercise my abilities with my money. I'm looking for my investment to be as strong as possible. You want people who are looking for stability. You want people who are looking for a long-term contribution to their life, because those are the people who are going to invest more seriously and who are going to be so much more grateful for the little amount that you were able to provide. They see it as something that is work that they can put in that directly translates to support for their family, their community. And you can use this not only as great economic leverage to be able to gather a community, but also as great social leverage to be able to say, look, we're helping people. We are making a difference. We are supporting a community that otherwise would have been underserved and struggling. So that being the case, as we are doing this and as we are moving forward, now you have 1 or 2 people. Now you're starting to work and starting to develop a little bit. Okay, well, what's to stop you from saying, hey, everybody's doing well, now we need to start charging for these things, or now we need to start adding other things to charge for? Again, I would restrain from that as much as possible, because if you have people who are, again, in this analogy, working on a garden, producing those resources, and they are reaping the rewards of that, quite literally. They're harvesting and eating the food that comes off of it, so you're not making a profit. But you have those people. You have those people who are there consistently helping and supporting that. And so if you were able to, say, minimize the amount of time that they have to spend on that versus when they initially come in, you would have more of their time to do other things. If they said, hey, I'm able to contribute, an hour a week or whatever to coming and harvesting these plants, or replanting or tilling or something like that. And you say, okay, well, here's, your allotted amount from the garden. You could eventually go and say, okay, well, now this is something that is particularly interesting. I just put in a new a new system for harvesting. We have all of these buckets set up such that it makes harvesting easier. We have it like an assembly line set up, or we have sensors put in the ground that make it easier to monitor things like the health and well-being of the plants, or we have an automatic watering system put in such that we don't have to water the plants by coming out there and checking them, such that the work that somebody would have spent, whose entire job may have been monitoring and keeping those plants healthy, can now maybe check it from their phone, or can now maybe go and plug into a USB port and gather the information from the sensors and take it back home, which went from an entire day, or their full hour a week that they could contribute, to 5 minutes of that hour. And so now you can say, hey, since that only took 5 minutes of your time, can you add a little bit more on there? Can you do a little bit more with the rest of that hour? And your efficiency starts to build and starts to increase. It starts to get you to the point that you now have more of an abundance. You are getting closer and closer to breaking even, or even looking into places where you can start to build a profit from those outside of the community. Again, I think a lot of the time I have seen plenty of micronations whose focus and initial gain in developing their nation, their primary strategy for developing their nation, is how to profit off of their initial citizens, saying, hey, what is the best way for us to make money from these people who want to become citizens? But your interest in profiting off of them leads to a natural economic disinterest in joining. It makes it less appealing to do so, versus if you were supplying things that everybody needs for free. Again, this comes from your pocket. If you don't have the initial investment ability to do so, then it's going to make it even harder for you. But if you can slowly eat those costs, you can lessen them and lessen them and lessen them and lessen them to the point that they're negligible, to the point that you are able to invest in other things which you can profit off of without losing the benefit that they gained initially from joining, which you were eating the cost of to begin with. So there is a lot to think about there and a lot to unpack there. But the gist of it is, if you're starting a micronation and you want to get support quickly, and you want to have that support be long-term and consistent, the best way to do that is to provide a resource to people that they feel is well worth their time and effort, and is something that they would not have been able to receive other places for the same amount of effort. And so having the ability to do things like that, having the ability to, to provide those things, and to start to figure out ways to use the excess time to improve production value, to improve the efficiency of it, and to make upgrades to automation, allows you a great advantage over all those nations who are instead going to be figuring out how to increase the dollar value of their economy as quickly as possible. And so while you would really, really be eager to try and make as much money as quickly as you can so you can invest in other things, the knowledge of how to actually improve your economy through cheap automation efforts is going to far exceed that of purchasing into other investments for profit. This is something, again, I've seen time and time again, where micronations will invest a lot of money and effort into starting a new type of business or a new project specifically targeted at their own citizens, and then it flounders and they lose money and they freak out and they wonder why it is that they could not keep that afloat. And now it has harmed the rest of their nation and their nation's ability to keep going, because now they have to pay off this debt, so they have to spend extra time at work, or they have to spend extra time doing these other things that now don't allow them to continue growing and progressing. So the big focus in all of this is that automation, is being able to provide resources as cheaply as possible, if not for free, to people, and then using the additional labor that you get from that, or the additional support that you get from that, to try to expand what you're doing. The more that you can free up the people who are having time, the people in your community, your citizens, the more that you can free up their time, the easier it is going to be for them to help in other ways, meaning that each citizen's contribution becomes more and more valuable. An hour of their time becomes more and more valuable. So that being the case, the type of economy that you choose, especially in the founding of your nation, if you are a realist nation, is incredibly, incredibly important. The type of economy that you want to initially start developing is somewhat of a mixed economy, somewhat between command and market. But this leaning toward market, I think, is misappropriated. I think we need to be focusing more and more of our resources on trying to support these other groups, trying to bring people in who may have been underutilized and underserved in the macronation that they're a part of, providing them benefits and opportunity at cost to us, and then allowing us absorbing the cost, and then allowing them to move forward with increasing their production value, and our job becoming trying to assist that and making it cheaper and easier to do so. So while we do that, and while we continue advancing on it, we of course need to look for ways for our nations to make money. It's inevitable, it's a necessity. Capitalism for the moment is not going anywhere. Capitalist system more and more efficiently. We can support ourselves and we can continue to gain access to a larger share of that market by trying to ensure that each of our citizens is as well equipped and as autonomous as possible in their abilities to produce. It's natural. It is understandable that, if you work at a job, you don't want to have to by hand go and do each little incremental part of your job if there is a way possible to automate some of it. Because if you are having to spend all day making one handcrafted item, versus if you can hit the button on a machine and have that machine produce 800 in the same shift, you'd rather do the 800. It's something that allows you to sell the item cheaper, and it's something that allows you to get more production value out of each minute of your time, so you can say my time is worth more. That's the way economies grow. That's the way that capitalism has worked and does work. But if we initially supplement it and we initially supply it ourselves without expecting it back, we give it, we provide it, then there is so much opportunity for growth. Again, it requires investment, but the type of thing that you're trying to pursue determines the amount of investment level. If you're trying to start, a really crazy, if you're trying to create cars, if that's the industry that starts off your nation, if you're trying to build motor vehicles like Ford or something, of course the upstart cost is going to be incredible and ridiculous. But if you're trying to make clay ceramics from dirt, if you're trying to make if you're trying to grow food from a garden, the startup costs are going to be significantly less and potentially manageable. If you're somebody who's been able to go out and purchase flags and pins and royal outfit and all of these different things, and provide stamps and stuff to your people and all these different things, and host an e-commerce site, you can probably afford to provide some of those things to the people who start to support you initially. And it will be the best investment you ever make, I guarantee. Those people who receive something from you will be very grateful for it and will try their best if you have picked the right candidates to continue to support that. That's a whole different series on, trying to understand what it is that people are looking for in a micronation, how it is that we can try to support those people and pick the right people for the right jobs. But nonetheless, it's all human nature. We are trying to provide for ourselves and our families. And if a nation who you're considering joining can make it that much easier so that you can spend an extra hour a day or whatever at home with your family, wouldn't you rather that? Wouldn't you prefer that? Something that feels like it's giving you your own time back is powerful. If you're somebody who constantly has it spent at a job, constantly has it spent away doing other things from what you'd rather be doing, if they can put just a little bit more time in and it gives them some of their time back, that is incredibly economically valuable, even if you're not seeing a dollar value on it. So, that being the case, that's something to think about for when you start. As you continue moving along, and you start building up these industries, and you start working on these things, that automation will always play a role in trying to provide more and more benefit, and leads to easement of stress on your population. Because as the population grows, then more and more people need that stuff that you provided initially, right? So, oh man, it was that I was providing free food to 10 people, and that was already crazy, but we could kind of manage it. Now it's providing free food for 100 people. How does that become practical? How does that become reasonable? It probably doesn't, if you are doing things exactly the same way you did when you started. However, if you've been able to take that extra time that people have been given and continue to push that automation, continue to find better ways to make more use of their time, then they will produce a lot more, a surplus, and you can start to continue expanding. Again, you want to be very careful with that expansion, because you're not going to have an infinite amount of resources. You're going to have to understand and regularly track how those resources grow and change, and you're going to need to be able to apply the specific growth measures necessary to do that. So, if you regularly have 10 people who are providing for the garden, and you now have enough of a stockpile to feed 12, you should not go and gain 2 additional citizens. You should maybe gain 1 additional citizen, or wait until you can feed 13 or 14 and then gain 1 additional citizen, such that in the case that something happens, there's any issue, you have a buffer zone. That all being the case, providing those resources and trying to use these methods of increasing production are going to be vital. Again, right away, initially, as well as you continue going. They are foundational building blocks of developing a successful micronational economy. And why is that? Because it's a small group of people. All of these people that you're bringing in provide different benefits, different skills that they have to contribute to your nation. So not everybody's going to go work in the garden. Some people are going to go work in the garden. Some people are going to make YouTube content. Some people are going to be welding. Some people are going to be programmers. Some people are going to be, salespeople for you. Some people are going to be supplying transportation. There are going to be a whole host of goods and skills and resources that people provide to your nation that don't always fit in the things that you need right away. So you need to have surpluses, and you need to understand how to properly regulate those surpluses. As well, one of the things, specifically talking about the food example, that is a really great thing to do is to be able to start trying to make those resources last longer and longer. So for example, with something perishable like food, you really want to be able to take those things, try and can them and preserve them, as another way to, again, increase not necessarily automation, but the amount of value you get for a person's time. If you can start to increase that stockpile and increase the amount of buffer you have, you're further and further stabilizing the economy that you've generated. And this is something that you have to constantly pump work into. An economy is the engine of a nation. And if you don't keep supplying it fuel, it will eventually shut off. And when it shuts off, the parts on it start to wear down and start to break down and start to eventually fall apart. So you need to keep it constantly running, constantly cleaned, constantly worked on, just like an engine. But in this case, It's about supplying support for those people, for those individual pieces that make up the thing that is the heart and soul of what you're doing. That's people's time. It's incredibly valuable. It's something that we should be grateful for, and it's something that we should really try to understand from their perspective so that we can get the best outcomes for their labor possible. Now, that goes into respecting the people who are a part of your nation and trying to understand their needs. But as far as what type of economy that puts you as, again, it's not going to be a 100% purely libertarian capitalist society. It's not going to be completely command controlled communism either. There's going to be some middle ground. There needs to be enough flexibility for your citizens to be able to move and to do things and to try to use their resources. But the point of it is to allow as much social cohesion as possible. It seems like, especially in the micronational community, people don't really like the term socialism, but if you can provide more socialist programs, if you can provide more assistance to those people who need it in your society, especially those people coming in from scratch, from the start, the more that you can provide to those people, the more outcome they're able to get, and as well, the more they're able to go out and start to pursue their own ventures. If your food is taken care of, and your electricity, and your water, and your transportation, and all of these by this little government from this place that you live in, then you may not have to work a 9-to-5 anymore. You may be able to work part-time and say, hey, for the rest of the time, I'm going to start my own business, and I'm going to go out and sell things to these other macronations, and I'm going to come into the micronation, and I'm going to try and sell things as well. And then that's a huge boost to your economy. And that's something that is very capitalist, but it's also something that does not predatorily target your citizens. It is something that is a benefit for them. Now, you can choose to tax that directly. You know, you can say, hey, we're going to take a percentage of the profits that you make from your business as a fee for all of the things that we've provided you thus far. Or you can say, hey, I'm not going to directly tax you for that, but as far as monetarily, but we do want to provide some of those things that you have to our citizens. So if you can keep us with a regular and consistent stockpile for the things that we need, that is incredibly beneficial for those people. So again, it is another added resource, another added benefit that they are getting on top of all of the things that they have to live there. If the person who is coming into your nation and feels good and happy about it and starts to go out and sell things, sells, for example, clothing. You know, they make and hand sew their own clothing and they start to sell that. Okay, that's something that's still pretty needed in a society. Not everybody's going to want to wear that person's clothes at all. But if there is a supply of that clothing set aside that's specifically issued for anybody who needs it, in the case that somebody has a terrible day, or in the case that, you know, something happens to them, they have that ability. In the case that there is somebody who shows up at your door hungry and tired and needing something, you can immediately provide them with food, shelter, clothing, electricity, water, plumbing. You start to transform someone's life and therefore their ability to produce, not only for yourself and for your nation, but for themselves, for their life. And that is, again, an incredible support of someone as far as their loyalty, as far as their understanding and recognition of what you're doing as a nation, but it's also something that economically produces benefit. So many societies around the world have huge homeless populations, have significant homeless populations, and in the United States, that is absolutely no different. So when we look at these places and we look at how much they're able to produce and we look at how much they're able to do, all of these people that are homeless are contributing the bare minimum amount, if anything at all, to these societies. It's not that they still don't have to eat. It's not that they still don't have to purchase things. They do, but they're not doing it at the same volume as somebody who has a house and a car and is, you know, an active social life and is doing all of these different things. And you may say, well, okay, but that's, you know, how are they going to do that? How are they going to get to that point? Well, if you start to provide those things for those people, they start to transform their lives. If you had a house that was freely given to you, if you had a mode of transportation that was freely available to you, then sure, you may choose not to accept that. But when you're feeling sick enough, when you're feeling tired, when doing something becomes practically necessary for your situation, if you have kids especially, you're going to want that and you're going to seek that out. And you're going to say, at this point in my life, this is much easier to do and accept than to live on the streets. And so many people, almost everyone, I would guarantee, would take that deal and would try and move forward with that. So that being the case, there are a lot of opportunities for, again, just providing resources for people that ultimately have huge pay. And these things don't have to be things that cost you millions of dollars. They don't have to be things where the state is sucking all of the money and taxes from everyone else in order to provide it. It just has to be built into the system. It starts from a very small seed, just like a garden, and it slowly starts to grow and develop into something that becomes the background for everyday life, especially as the citizenry and the workforce of that population start to make it cheaper and easier to maintain those systems. So that's why things like library economies are so popular and so interesting. That's why there are so many opportunities for people to be able to create unique economic systems in micronationalism, is because there is this overarching theme that you're trying to convince people to join your nation over other nations. In normal national politics, international politics, most of the time countries are not competing for citizens. They are to some degree. If it is nearly impossible to live and survive in the nation that you come from, you may immigrate somewhere else out of fear for your own life and the well-being of your family. However, if you can comfortably live there, most people are going to have the preference to stay there. But if there's another nation that is offering you really, really heavy incentives to come over, you may consider it, especially if those are direct to you. They're not just saying, hey, people, we specifically want to offer you this. Hey, you, John Doe, if you joined Aeternia, we would be able to provide you this. We're specifically thinking about your skills. We're really interested in you as a person. We care about you, and we want to see you fulfill your full potential here in Aeternia. That is powerful, and that's something that micronations have to do over macronations, because we are actively seeking out our citizens. Nobody, there are people, I take it back, I have met the Grand Duchess of Ruritania, Morticia von Elfberg. She is somebody who was born in a micronation. So you can't say nobody's been born in a micronation, because they have. Very few people are born in a micronation, and so therefore very few people are going to want to stay in a micronation naturally. That, of course, happens once you have more and more people who are a part of your nation. Those people will have children, and those children may feel more patriotic and more inclined to stay in your nation, but that's not guaranteed. You have to be constantly seeking out and actively promoting your nation in order to recruit citizenry. And then when you do that, you have to be able to provide resources to those people in order to make it worthwhile for them to join. I know so many micronations that have programs that say, hey, support us on Patreon, here's your tax for this. Hey, you need to do this and this and this to pay your taxes to us, or you need to do this and this and this to supply your labor to us. And there is no benefit whatsoever to those people for joining and for participating. And so it becomes, I think, frustrating for those people, and they decide to slowly leave because it would be much more difficult for them to stay and continue to contribute not only to their own life and to the society that they have in the macronation that they're a part of, but also to then take additional time out of that and supply it to your micronation. That is something that, again, has multiple facets to it. We could talk about micronational organizations as a connection to that in much the same vein, where people are dividing up their time more and more and more to try and support these organizations until they become untenable and unsustainable. I have also seen situations where, you know, you can talk about the type of citizenship that you have and the way that that is provided, such as citizenships that are more lackadaisical, ones that, you know, really don't expect too much of their citizens, which, again, if you're not providing benefits to them, may be the best course of action for the moment to provide stability, but is not something ideal for a realist nation. Realist nations want to try to grow, they want to try and become more recognized, they want to try and become more established, and therefore when they do that, it is necessary to be able to continue to provide more benefits for the people who are involved, and to do that at a cheaper and cheaper rate so that you can continue to grow that population. So it's a lot to think about. It's a lot once you start putting it on paper to crunch the numbers of saying, okay, well, I have this much. How do I incorporate this much? How do I do this? How do I make this cheaper so I can get one more citizen who can produce this much so I can do this? You know, it's a lot of people management. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of consideration. It's a lot of vetting people. It's a lot of, you know, trying to give your heart and soul to this micronation that you're building. But you're doing it anyway, right? You're already contributing so much. Why not do that in a way that really substantially impacts people's lives who are wanting to become a part of it? Because then that makes you unforgettable in their eyes. So that being the case, there's a lot that I could talk about on this subject. I want to continue talking about it. Let me know if you feel like this has been beneficial to you. But real quick, I want to go ahead and read a few comments, get to a few people's thoughts, and that way we can start to slowly wrap up the stream, see if we can get a little bit more out of it. If people have questions on this topic, and continue to cover it in a future video. I would love to talk about library economies and the concept of you know, general social support networks and safety nets and stuff for people, but I digress. Let's get into a few comments here. Sorry, I'm going to have to hold my stand while we do this. Everybody's saying hello. Hello, everybody. Also, my phone is incredibly hot. If it overheats and shuts down, please forgive me. That happens regularly. Hello to everybody who joined. Whiteman says, I will try to attend the stream later if you're still streaming. I'm at work. We'll be done here possibly 30 minutes. Hey, very cool. I'd be excited to see you, Whiteman. If you have an email, I probably need to respond. Venercia GOV says, speaking of economics, I have found what I think is raw tin or maybe even iron, which I can use for coins of or tools. Hey, very cool. Iron is very hard to melt down. Tin is a lot easier, but again, still kind of difficult. Just think about the amount that it costs to produce that versus how much benefit it provides you. Iron is an incredibly cheap resource. You know, if you were to go purchase iron nails or something like that, or a big slab of iron, it's relatively cheap. It's a relatively cheap material, and yet it is very expensive to produce and to heat up and to melt and refine on small scales. So keep that into consideration, you know, how much value there actually is in that iron that you're producing. And when you do that, really think about what scale you need to be at in order to produce there. I would say if you're making it into more valuable products, you said maybe coins, that may help a little bit, but not everybody's going to be interested in coins. So the more valuable and more demand an item you can, in demand an item you can create, the better it is for making you closer to breaking even or even assuming a profit on that stuff. Okay, let me continue. The Vinton Republic says, me and my vice president. Oh, first off, Davis said, all right, hello. Hey, Davis, good to see you. Thank you for being here and thank you for supporting us. Also, everybody, if you want to support the Empire of Aeternia and our developments, I have some stuff to show you. We have right now a solar panel set up that's actively charging up our large battery bank. And I can show you guys that in a second if my phone doesn't die. But if you want to support projects like that we're doing, if you want to support our metals refining and all that, and our garden and dwelling building at Vitae, you could do that by joining our Patreon. We really need it. We have 4 patrons right now that are supplying us with about $24 a month, but that is very precarious because one of those people is supplying $20 a month of that. So if you guys can continue to support us and help us out, we put your names at the end of every video. Not every live stream, but every edited video that we do, which is primarily where we give the updates about everything. But yeah, thank you so much. And I will shout out all of those people who are on our Patreon right now. That's Gastanova, that's Eric, that's Gastanova, Eric, English Times, and is it Carter? Forgive me. Last person, forgive me. You're getting thrown up on the thing one way or the other next video. I appreciate it. There was a new joinee. Republic of Unity says, we're sorry with the time-based currency system. We solve these with a time-based currency system that has silver to tie it into the micronation. That's cool. Again, I have a whole video. Watch the video talking about backing currencies. We have a Micronational Economics talking about backing currencies. The time-based thing is very cool. You know, you support it with a certain amount of time that you spend dedicated to the nation, and that goes into, you know, the value of your currency. But silver, backing something with a precious metal, especially at a very small scale, even if you're dealing with large scale, still not super beneficial. At small scales can actually be very detrimental to your economy because you're having to hoard this valuable resource that isn't necessary for the continuation or development of your society. Again, those things that you're creating, that medium of exchange is exactly that, a medium of exchange that people agree on. So they don't necessarily need something that is backing it with a certain amount of value, because as long as everybody agrees that it has the value of their time, then they accept it and they continue to use it. If somebody doesn't accept it, you remove them from a system and you take their value away, you take their currency to be able to provide it to another. So that being the case, and to get that time back, that being the case, I think hoarding that silver and using it to back your currency may be more detrimental, because you could just as easily sell the silver, right? You could just sell it, make a little bit of profit, use that to advance the nation some, and then continue to develop and build. If you are purchasing that silver, that is money and resources that could have been used to do anything else in your nation and progress its development, when you could have made the economy run and function in a decent system for a lot cheaper, doing effectively the same thing. Vinton says, also, I forgot, what's your population? That's a great question, Vinton. So I guess it depends on how you look at it. The population of Vitae right now is technically 0, which is our capital territory, because I don't live there permanently, so I can't claim myself, nor my girlfriend Tiffany. However, our population as of right now for citizens of the Empire of Aeternia, I think, is 8. That is contributed by, I believe, 3 members of our Patreon who are citizens, as well as who are active, engaged citizens, paying their taxes through that, as well as, I'm pretty sure it's 5 core V citizens who are supplying essentially contributions through work and through, you know, their own creative endeavors to help Aeternia. This is, you know, contributing to making Instagram posts and YouTube stuff and all the things that we do. There are people behind the scenes who are helping make that happen. So again, right now, about 8 is our population. As far as living here, Tiffany and I live together, so that's 2 people, but we are not on Vitae. So 0 as of the moment on our territory. We're right now building our first dwelling, which is our first house for people out on Vitae, and that's where Tiffany and I are going to live. So as quickly as we can do that, with more help from you guys and other people supporting our Patreon, buying things from our Etsy, all of which you can find the links for in the description of this video actively. I actually put everything in early this time for the description. You can find all that, and that helps to push us exponentially closer toward living there and actually being able to do more. We have a garden that's growing out there, but because Tiffany's away this week, I'm not able to go out and check it regularly. So, you know, it's something like an hour drive from us. So it takes a long time and effort to go out there and check it and maintain it. And so right now, I assume everything's growing well. We've had good rain. We've had, you know, pretty good upkeep of it so far, just letting it sit. But, and it's not time for harvest yet. but still we need to be out there. It would be much more beneficial. We could grow so much more and do so much more and build dwellings quicker to have other families come out and live on vitae if only we had more support on Patreon, if only we had more income streams. So we're trying to reach monetization here on YouTube as well. So every time you like the video, that helps us to reach toward monetization, because your like gets the YouTube algorithm to promote the video. That promotion of the video leads to another person joining the stream, and even a minute more of their time goes toward our watch time for the month or for the year. And that ultimately will add up to us getting 4,000 watch time hours, monetizing the channel, and starting to make ad revenue based on that support. So again, thank you guys. Right now we have ads running on the videos and we don't make anything from them at all. YouTube puts ads out on these videos and we don't make anything from them. So if you really want to contribute to Aeternia, liking like someone just did. We went up from 10 to 11, and we jumped from 4 people in the chat to 6 people in the chat. So that is just an example of how much your individual support and views, especially if you decide to go the extra mile and, you know, comment on a video or even support our Patreon or something, really, really goes toward helping us to build and make more. So thank you guys. Uskurian Kingdom says, hello everyone. Hey Uskuria, how are you? Baliga says hi. Hey Baliga. Vinton Republic says my population is 10. Hey, congratulations. How did you develop that population of 10? And what do those 10 people provide to you to help you grow and develop? Republic of Unity says, my population is now 3. Hey, congratulations. We have a lot of nations who are developing, not only here on these streams and talking to each other and meeting each other and forming alliances and trade agreements and all this crazy stuff that happens. We also have a ton of those people in our Discord. I have been slacking on the Discord, and we actually have a citizen who's about to join us, who's going to increase our population, who is actively doing that. So who is actively going to start doing that. They're starting in August. But we're hopefully going to have a new Discord mod, somebody who will actually help us to provide more resources to the server and be able to allow more engagement and to be able to show off the things that you guys want on the server. So if you guys are interested in doing that and learning more about the community, getting more in touch with your fellow micronationalists, definitely consider joining the Discord. Hopefully, at a certain point, we will have scheduled events on the Discord if we can get our mod interested in doing that. And if they have the time allotted to spend there, we can be able to get that ball rolling, where not only can you come into the Discord server and talk to people and wait for a new live stream to drop or a new video to drop from us, but you can also expect that, you know, once a month or something, hey, there will be a new community activity that's outside of our videos. That's just you guys trying to do something, trying to make something, and ultimately providing further benefit and cohesion to the community, trying to make real change that a lot of these micronational organizations try their hardest to do, but have difficulty doing because they can't contribute the resources necessary. We are congregating those resources. We are concentrating them, trying to put them here in the Discord and in these live streams, such that you can gain incremental benefits just by sitting and watching, just by hanging out, just by participating, by throwing in a comment. So that's the goal, and we're slowly on our way with every person who's here. Baliga says we currently have a population of 1. Last year it was around 3 or so. 3, so we have been on the decline population-wise. I have big plans now through for 2024 and 2025, so I'm not giving up on this project yet. Sorry for the long answer. That's all right, Baliga. That's completely fine, and thank you for being here. I have been in plenty of situations, plenty of time for years with Aeternia where the population was 1. It was me. I was trying to do it and grind and post things and reach out to people and you know, make videos and do all this stuff to an audience of 0, to people who were not interested, were not, you know, taking me seriously, who some even ridiculed. And so it's important to remember to keep going. If you ever do want to join another micronation, I hope you consider Aeternia. If you ever get tired of micronationalism, I hope you don't just quit. You know, if you left your micronation and said, I don't have time to dedicate to this anymore, or there are other things that I would prefer to dedicate to my time to, you can always lessen the amount of time that you spend on those things. But I would say don't just completely drop micronationalism. Continue to be a part of this community, continue to make your voice heard, and hopefully join another micronation, because Lord knows we need it. So thank you guys, and Baliga especially. I hope you keep your head up. I hope you keep grinding, because I'm sure those plans for 2024 and 2025 are going to work out for you. And if you need continued advice, come back to these streams, hang out in our Discord, start to talk to other people besides me, who I have my own bias and I have my own interests in development and what I think is right. But you can get multiple opinions from those people in the server. And hopefully, if we have these community events, we can say, hey guys, today we're trying to brainstorm ideas about how to increase our populations. Or today we're trying to talk about the biggest news articles that we would write out of our nations. We're trying to do this and that and the other. So that way people have these brainstorming sessions. They have these collaboration efforts that don't cost them anything, that aren't something that they have to actively commit their allegiance to an organization in order to support. They can just be a part of the Discord and hang out and do those when they can, and gain the real practical benefit of them. Unity says our time currency is mostly a time credit system, and the silver component was a compromise. I'm sorry to hear that. The time credit system sounds the most beneficial. Again, silver is cool, but at the end of the day, silver is expensive, especially for a micronation. So I definitely understand. Good luck, but I would try to minimize the amount of silver you actually have to try and acquire for this, because that is a project in and of itself that isn't directly going to aid or benefit the growth of your nation, other than meeting that person's compromise, which helps to keep your population up, who those people may be, which helps to keep your population up. But if those people aren't actively contributing, makes it a struggle. Vinton Republic, bringing up an interesting point. Says, well, my people do support my country, but they don't actually work in my country. Me and my vice president do the work, like build the farms and get rid of the poison plants and worry about other micronations. Makes sense. Most of the time, that's how it works. The government of a micronation is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting, especially starting off. Even here in the Empire of Aeternia, we have several people that we work with online who do not live here, but who do contribute to Eternia, who aren't a part of the government. But those people, you can't ask them to have a regular, hourly dedicated work cycle. That's one, in a lot of places, especially here in the US, that's illegal. You can't basically have somebody working a job and not compensate them for that job. So that's difficult. And then if you do compensate them, you have to compensate them at the legal minimum wage. So that's difficult. And you should do that if you're trying to put people to work at that scrutiny. But most of the time, those people are just going to volunteer their time. They're going to say, hey, I have an hour this week. This is what I can do. This is, I know you've been trying to hit these different goals, so I'll come in and knock out one of those. It's not that we're coming in and demanding those people, hey, you got to do this, and this is exactly what you need to do, and this is how you need to do it, and this is the time you need to do it. It's more so just, hey, what can you provide for us? Here are some things that we need. If you're interested in doing some of those with the time you have, here's how you do that. Our government officials, it's kind of different. Again, myself as the emperor, Tiffany helping out, not as a part of the government, but just being a part here and effectively working as though she's in the government without a title at this point. We're primarily the people who are doing that grinding, building the things, making the things, reaching out to people, making videos, trying to do everything we can to grow the nation and keep it stable. And that's just the way it goes for a long time. I think the amount of benefit you have to provide to someone to get more valuable as a citizen is going to be very high. And so for a long time, you're just trying to meet enough value creation to hit that minimum. And then once you hit that minimum, once you can start paying somebody $7.25 an hour or something to support your nation, or to do regular 9-to-5 work for it, or being able to provide them some percentage profits from a business that regularly makes a profit, that is another option. But again, is a base minimum you have to meet in order to do that. Baliga said, I had that problem, Vinton. Vinton Republic, Baliga says, sorry, Vinton Republic. Vinton Republic says, and the hardest part about it is we are in the heat all day when we work. Oh, absolutely. Make sure that you, I mean, even right now, it's 92 degrees, I think, here. I have something to drink. I am actively talking to people online. This doesn't seem like much work. It seems like I'm being lazy right now, but using your voice, when you do an hour stream and you've been talking the entire time during that hour, trying to fill as much of the quiet space as possible, it starts to get hot. Your neck starts to hurt. Your throat hurts after that. You know, you're wearing a uniform. It's a bit exhausting. So you're standing, so you know your legs start to hurt at some point. It's a lot. So I can imagine only, you know, going out and trying to garden in the heat. We've been doing that, actually. We've been, you know, again, rarely when we get the opportunity, but we've been going out and gardening and trying to help and trying to produce more. So I definitely understand being in the heat. Take care of yourself, though. That's always going to be number one, because if you go out and you push and you do a 12-hour day trying to grind through and clear all these weeds and plant all this stuff and build all these things and watch out for other micronations and all this stuff, and you hurt yourself and you can't do it for another 2 months because you're injured or you're sick or something, that's a lot worse. That drastically reduces your output, because then maybe not only can you not help, but also the other members of your government, because they don't want to be out there by themselves. So that's a big thing to consider. How much production value do you actually have? Not how much can you max it out until people are falling down in exhaustion, but what is a reasonable and consistent amount that you can produce? Vinton Republic says, man, you're lucky it's 118 for me. It's 118 degrees for you? Where are you at? Are you in the middle of the Gobi Desert? Gee, 118 degrees Fahrenheit? It can't be Celsius. You'd be boiled alive. You'd be carbon at this point. But 118 degrees Fahrenheit, that is ridiculous. I am sorry that that's happening. But I wish you good luck. Again, thank you everybody for being here. Real quick, I'm going to show you guys the setup. Like I said, we have solar going on. And I have been promising to show the solar setup since our last live stream, and I didn't. So get ready for this solar setup. Hey, yo. Hey, yo. It's actually right now in a little bit of shade, so I need to move it so we increase the productivity. But look at that. Look at that right there. Okay. So what we're doing here, let's put that back out in the sun. We have this guy. Decent sized solar panel. It's not big. Produces 12 volts. You know, max amount while it's on a load like this, about 12.5 volts on direct sunlight like we're out here today, at maybe 200-300 milliamps. So not a huge amount, enough where you could charge your phone maybe off of the direct voltage and amperage here, but it's going to be a little bit difficult. Then we have these wires connected to it that trail all the way back to this huge bank of batteries. And so one of the things that's interesting is that we actually, we have all of these connected up right here, starting here, going there, there, and then ending right here. Now, this one has one that's tied to it because we were going to apply it. However, its voltage is just low enough where we think there may be something wrong with this battery, so we'll actually need to refill the acid on it. But it is a very, and try and refresh it and get it up to a higher voltage so it can operate more properly with the rest of the system. Same thing with this big guy. This is a huge boat battery, which has a lot of capacity, but is going to struggle at its current voltage to hold the rest of the system stable, and will in fact drain a lot of power out of it. So these two, we need to do some upgrades to get. But this one, when we got it, again, there's an old battery falling apart that was at around 5 or 6 volts when I grabbed it yesterday. And so now we're able to try to crank that thing up to 12 volts to match the rest of the system and get it charged up so it can supply additional current for us when we need it. Real quick, I'm going to grab my multimeter so that I can show you guys exactly what is going on here. Let me go ahead and Say this, Beliga says, sounds tough. Currently, I'm in Germany. It's hot over here, but nowhere near that hot. Oh, absolutely. Hey, very cool. Vinton says they have an ally in Germany. That's awesome. But again, here are these batteries. What I'm going to do, just in case the phone overheats and it kicks me off, I'm going to say I love you guys and I appreciate you being here. Aeternia forever until next time. But I think we should be all right. I'm going to put you guys in the shade. I'm going to run off and go grab the stuff for testing this. Again, grab my multimeter to show you guys those voltages and to show you that this thing is charging up. But real quick, I will set you down and race over there. Stay tuned. Keep involved in the stream if you can, because if you're trying to build off-grid solar, if you eventually want to supply power without needing to be a part of the government's power that you're connected to, this is a great way to do it. So, and a fairly cheap way. Getting it from recycled batteries that other people aren't using. It's dangerous, but yeah. Be careful, guys. I will be right back. Let me go ahead and see if I can't grab this. Stay tuned. Stay in the live stream. It helps our watch time. And also, please like the video if you're new here. I'll be right back. Give me like 10 seconds. Hey, I'm back, guys. And it looks like we're okay. Somebody, oh goodness. And now these dogs are going to be loud. Sorry about that, buddy. Republic of Unity says, are those car batteries? Some of them are car batteries. They're a mix of car batteries, boat batteries. Some of these smaller ones are like lawnmower batteries. But yes, real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up, I guess, like right here for you guys so that you can see. Can you see right here? Yep, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure off of this battery. Because all of these batteries that we have connected are in parallel, it doesn't matter which battery we actually test off of, so long as we test it correctly. But you guys should be able to see the voltage there. Hey, there we go. So we're on AC. Going to go ahead and turn it to DC, direct current. And now I'm going to test these lines. So we got one about to go, yep, on the right side, positive and negative. There and there. We're looking at 10.52 volts. So the reason that it's at 10.52 volts right now is because of this little crappy guy over here. Again, we just added it to the system and it was at around 5 volts or so. If I took all of this off and reconnected it without this guy, hopefully pretty quickly it would jump back up to 12 volts, which is ideal working voltage for one of these batteries, actually about 12.5 or 13 when they are brand new from the factory. But that being the case, what I can do is I can show you over here, this is going to look the same. This thing, again, it outputs about 12 something volts, but because it has this load on it, the load and the actual thing that supplies the voltage are going to kind of equalize out. Let me see if you guys can see that all right. I'll try and hold that there while I take my measurement without shorting the battery. Okay, what's that saying? 3 something, 4 something. That's not right. There we go, 10.51. Yep, 5.3, 5.6, 5.7, climbing, 5.8. And that's, again, measuring directly off of the solar panel that is connected to all those batteries. So it's also measuring what the batteries are getting. You see now it's going to 5.7. If we keep going, 5.8, it'll drop back down to 5.7 again, and eventually if we let it, it would go down to 5.6 because we're providing, an additional load to it. So that means, we're drawing more power from it. But that's the idea. Now, right, just to show you guys, that's what that was at about 10 something volts. If I were to take one of these off, so now the batteries are no longer connected to the thing. If I measure directly off of the solar panel, now this is, connected to the solar panel, but not connected to the batteries anymore because I just disconnected the batteries. Stick my positive right there, my negative right there, and we're looking at almost 20 volts. Let me make sure you guys can see that. That's 19.56 there, almost 20 volts. So yeah, that is a stark difference. The reason is because, again, this thing has a load on it. And again, if I measure, still disconnected. So now we're just measuring off of the batteries. I have, again, this disconnected. So now if I measure, we are getting 10.2. Yep, 10.2 volts there. So again, that's with it attached to a load and trying to increase the voltage of those batteries. At a certain point, I had this thing on yesterday, and it's just, I think, taking a long time to charge. The other day, it was at, when I started it yesterday, it was at about 8 something volts, 9 volts, maybe 9.5 at the end of the day. And then I was like, well, because this is a real slow charging system, it's one very tiny solar panel, maybe in, the next day or two, it'll eventually get up to 12. So that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm letting that thing sit in the sun and just heat and heat and heat. I'm saying heat. Create the photoelectric effect over and over and over again. It's gaining all that radiation. It's providing electricity and slowly increasing that voltage. Even though it's supplying a voltage, that power supply, that solar panel, is doing it at about 19 volts, 19, almost 20 volts. These batteries have to convert all of those ions that are inside them to eventually get up to the full 12 or so that is their capacity. And that reaching that 12 or so means that they are full, means that they can't take any more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until this afternoon. I'm actually going to head out, have a couple things to do in the United States. So I will be crossing over national borders, going into the United States for a little while, not on a dip, just on a personal visit. And in doing that, I will be continuing to let this charge. I've moved it out of the way of anything that would, obstruct it or cast shade on it as the day goes on. So once we finish up here, what I'm going to do is let that run all day and then come back and check on it tonight and see what the change in the voltage is. If the voltage has continued to increase, then that means that the system is going just like it needs to, running smoothly, and I'll leave it out again tomorrow to see if it can get up to that full 12. If it doesn't, for one reason or another, if they absolutely cannot. Also, we have 10 viewers right now. Thank you guys for being here. Again, please like the video because it helps a ton with more people jumping in. And also our watch time, we're desperately trying to get to that 4,000 watch time hours so that all the ads that are running on our videos can continue, can actually start to pay us, because right now they're continuing to run and not paying us. So it would mean a lot. Hey, thank you guys. But what we're going to do is we're going to let that sit all day, see if it hits a higher voltage. If it doesn't, then that means that this one battery that we added right here is a bad battery. Not that it's actually completely bad. It wouldn't be able to run in a car or something because the car still needs basically 12 volts to run. So at a certain point when it can't reach that 12 volts, it's considered dead, and so people will throw it out. But again, this thing had, it has right now 10 plus volts on it. So it could be used for something if you wanted to use it. It still will produce electricity. for you, but not at the rate that we would like it to. So if we can get all of this up to 12 volts, then that would be nice, because we can convert that 12 volts to 120 volts pretty easily, and then we can 120 volts AC, and then we can start to run anything we want to off of it. That's just what the houses in the United States are run at. If you're in Europe, like our friend in Germany, you may be at 240 volts, which you could do the same thing. You could charge up these 12-volt batteries, these lead-acid batteries, and have them convert to 240 volts, and then run, your car charger, your phone charger, or your computer, or your air conditioning, or your water heater, or something off of these, or just the lights in an emergency. These systems like this are not going to last a lifetime. They're not going to be something that you charge them up and it's good. If all of a sudden the sun stops shining and we have a power outage, this thing may last us, an hour or less, trying to run a lot of stuff on it. This is going to drain very quickly. But if it's used for just emergency circumstances, where we aren't trying to run, all of the lights in the house, and the air conditioning, and the refrigerator, and the water heater, and all these different things, if we're just trying to run an emergency light or something, if we're just trying to run just the fridge to make sure that our food doesn't expire or something, this could give us, 10, 12 hours, hopefully, of charge for a very small amount in an emergency situation. If we had somebody who, for example, was on life support, there are people who have, life support systems that they have at home that monitor their health. Generally older people, or people with, terminal illnesses and stuff. Those people have what they call UPSs, uninterruptible power supplies, which are big electrical circuits that are hooked up to a battery, and in case the power goes out, they still have a battery that can run all the stuff they need to until they can get back to a power source. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to provide additional benefit for ourselves, a little bit of something to isolate Aeternia from the grid and make it more self-reliant. So as we keep going, we're going to keep improving on this. Again, the more batteries that we add that can get up to that 12 volts successfully, the more power we can produce, and the more power we can produce consistently. And then all we need to do is start getting more solar panels. So again, this thing is super slow charging, and you would say, oh, dang, well, that thing's going to take forever just to build up a little bit of charge. And you're absolutely right. But that being the case, if you guys can help us out on our Patreon, again, if you want to become a citizen, it's $1 a month. If you don't want to become a citizen, you can still subscribe to the citizen tier, $1 a month, and say, I'm not a citizen. We have somebody doing that right now. But if you are interested in that, if you're interested in becoming one of our patrons and supporting us in that way, that helps us to do things like this, to invest in solar panels, to invest in more supplies for our gardening, to invest in more supplies for building our dwelling at Vitae, and even to pay for our gas to do all of this. We run around, we burn gas, we burn up our vehicles trying to make Aeternia happen. So every day that you guys support us on these streams, every day that you support us by buying something from our Etsy, or from, supporting us on Patreon, you are helping to make this closer to a full-time job for me, and you're helping to make this something that is viable for Aeternia. Again, we, one way or another, even if we have absolutely no support, we're going to keep doing it. But the fact that we do have support is incredible. And asking for more support, in my mind, I think in a lot of people's mind, feels a little bit selfish, and I 100% get that. But I would not do it if I didn't think it would go toward legitimately assisting not only ourselves to provide Aeternia for us, but also to provide Aeternia for other people who need it more desperately than we do. So again, thank you all for being here. I appreciate your support. Even right now, having 6 viewers in the live stream, if we stayed on for an hour, that would be 6 watch time hours for us. So you guys hanging out for 20 minutes or so, that's still going to give us about 3 watch time hours, which is incredible. And I'm grateful for that. So go watch the other videos. We have so many videos that you probably haven't seen that cover topics from micronational economics to how to dress, We have a video talking about, you know, the different types of uniforms and stuff, and how I designed my uniform. We have things talking about advice for leaders, whether you're in a micronation or not. We have plenty of live streams talking about different types of micronations, some videos that even go through and interview the leaders of different micronations. We have plenty of live streams where we have talked at length to the leaders of other micronations, asking them what they're doing, what their struggles are, what their benefits are, and I hope to do more of that. So if you're somebody who wants to become a citizen of Aeternia, please find some way to help us and support us, even if you can't pay the tax. If you, the $1 a month, you know, Patreon support, we can still find a way to help you and get you into Aeternia. If you are trying to just, you know, be a foreign dignitary and reach out to us and get support that way, we want to prop up your nation. We want to help you. So please reach out to us. We can try and do a live stream or something together. We can figure that out, but we want to find ways to make that beneficial for everybody. So again, jump in the Discord is another great way for those who are micronationalists trying to run micronations, micronational leaders. Definitely join our Discord. If you join our Patreon, you get access to special channels, including, like, you can get access to a channel where you can promote your micronation and post links. Everybody's like so frustrated in the Discord because we have a no links policy, and people get warned by a bot if you post a link. And people get frustrated and think that's stupid, but we've also had people post absolutely horrendous, uncomfortable, inappropriate stuff on the Discord server, and we have people of all different age range, all different backgrounds, and all different belief systems who are a part of that server, and we don't want to make it hostile toward them. So we've limited those links, but if you legitimately wanted to post a link and advertise your nation, we do have a Patreon tier that will give you special access to a chat that will let you do that. So again, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of Aeternia and society, Aeternian society and culture. And until next time, Aeternia forever. White One says, I was 34 minutes later than I said I would be. That's okay. We appreciate you being here. Beliga says, oh, they are car batteries. My bad. Again, some car batteries, some boat batteries, some lawnmower batteries, and even smaller batteries than that. So there's a lot. White One says, Beliga, here in Ohio it's 89 degrees. Beliga says, I don't know if it's the conversion. I'm guessing around 40 degrees C off the top of my head, which is just below sauna heat, so that's tough. Oh, absolutely, very tough. Fake Name says, some long comments today. Oh, absolutely. People are really supporting the stream. It's great. Beliga says, I know, right? I can't write a short statement for my life. No, you're good. It's helpful. The more that you provide your input to these streams, the more that you are helping people legitimately to learn about micronationalism and to, you know, really engage with our community. That's what makes the Discord so cool. Again, links in the description for the website, for the Patreon, for the Discord. Join them and interact with our community. Fake Name says, well, I have bad news today. In order to preserve my reputation with the non-micronationalist community as I prepare to start a movement, I will have to stop endorsing micronationalism. I won't condemn it, I just can't spread it. What? Why? Like, why not? You know, even if you're starting a movement, you know, even if you're like, I want to become the president of the United States, and I want to, you know, do all these things to help people of America, or whatever country you're a part of, you can still support micronationalism 100%. If you're doing it the right way, you're not going to alienate anybody or cause any problems. Look at Slajamistan. Slajamistan is a micronation that has very little that they've like promised anybody, very little that they have like really written out as a proposal for what they plan to do as far as, you know, developing their nation or anything like that. And yet they have developed a large culture, and they have developed a lot of ideas about the things that they enjoy and the type of people that they're looking for, and, you know, have a great advertising campaign. And that being the case, they have attracted an incredible amount of success, huge amount of success. So I think no matter what you're trying to do, if you have the right marketing strategy, you can be open and honest with people and support the things that you believe in. Because if you're trying to do something political, if you start off being insincere, whether it's doing that as, lying directly or just not telling people the full truth, it can become a slippery slope, and people will eventually find out that you had a micronation. If you become popular and successful enough, people will know about it. And if you tried to hide it, then it's a sort of thing. But if you go out and publicly endorse it, and have been publicly endorsing it the entire time, people who don't know what it is won't care. And people who do know what it is will be appreciative that you stuck by them the whole time. Vinton Republic says, can you do a 3-hour stream, please? I would love to. We absolutely cannot. I have a specific thing that's a time crunch that I have to go to. I would love to do a 3-hour stream. We have done 3-hour streams before. If you are like hurting for content and you want more hanging out with us, go check out some of our videos. We have over 500 videos. I am certain there's a topic that you desperately need for your micronation and its development that you haven't checked out yet. We have videos on economics, on flag design, on online micronations. We have so many different videos, and I recommend you check it out. Comment on those videos as well. Whatever videos you watch, if you comment and you want to like talk to me directly, I have my phone on me and I can see those comments. It takes me a while to respond to all of them, but eventually I do. So definitely check them out and leave me a comment, and we can talk about what your thoughts are. It's similar to being in a live stream, just not live. The reason for all this is because people will see me as not being serious, and it would discredit my word. I disagree. I think not supporting a community that you've supported for a long time would discredit it a lot worse. Because people would think, oh, if he'll abandon them, why wouldn't they abandon us? Fam Lagura Wubbles says, hello, I'm a micronation too, but I forgot my account. I'm on my dad's. Hey, very cool. Glad to see you here. Thank you for being with us. It says, call me Nintentia. Hey, good to see you, Nintendia. I am glad that you're here, and I appreciate you supporting us. If you can give us a like, it helps to grow the stream, and also we will be headed out pretty quickly. So I'm sorry you joined in the end, but you can always go rewatch the stream or watch any of our other videos to catch up on what we've been up to. Cusnaria says, also, I meant to say I can't spread it, not can spread it. Please do spread it. Valiga says, oh, that's sad. Seen you around for a while. I'm going to miss you. Fake Name says, don't worry, Baliga, I'll still watch videos and engage in comments for some time. I just can't be a micronationalist anymore. I still don't understand why, though. The micronationalism is niche because people don't talk about it enough. If you talk about it more, then it'll grow and develop. And I think we should support the communities we believe in. We have a very short life, and I think if you spend a lot of it, pushing away from the things that you care about, eventually that'll catch up with you. Baliga says, okay. White One says, sorry, I had to feed my dogs. What happened? Talking to people. Baliga says, usually the UK would need, usually in the UK, so that would mean we only need 230 volts, but yeah, not sure if a car battery could cover it. Through something called inversion. There are inverters, which are devices that specifically, a DC, like 12 volts, to 120 volts, 200, could supply from a car battery, if I had the right transformer, 1,000 volts, 100,000 volts. The amperage would be very low, almost non-existent, but you could do it 100%, and people have done it, and I have done it as a part of research before. So that is, absolutely reasonable. It's not difficult to do. Look into it. It's the way transformers work. If you look up transformers, the electrical components, not the robots in disguise, transformers are the thing that transform electrical power. That's the way that electricity gets to your house and stuff. So look those up. They do convert voltages. Vinton Republic says a lot of sorries today. All good. Whitewind says we aren't Canadian either. Every time, everyone, don't forget to like the stream. Hey, I appreciate it, Whitewind. Whitewind's helping us out. Whitewind, I would love to talk to you again. I know last time there was some stuff that you were kind of concerned about, and I would love to know how we can help. Casnaria says, AP, if I could, I would recommend hydro. Of the renewable energies, it's the most efficient, as you can capture more energy from water than wind or solar. Again, if you like live in a big source of water, there is some hydro that we are working on and have developed. I'm not releasing that yet or showing that yet, but we have some. It's just not in a large enough capacity to be our primary means of research at the moment, of trying to grow our energy storage capacities. Beliga says, same was away from screen, making some tea for a few seconds, so didn't see it. All good. Beliga says, wind power is what Beliga is looking into. For now, we are just getting solar lighting system though. Very cool. And also wind power is valuable. Ferder, good to see you. Ferder said, the video is a bit laggy. I get it. That's almost every live stream, unfortunately. We are out in a very rural area with low cell reception, so that's completely understandable. We have that issue constantly. Beliga says it's the heat, I think. Hey, Victor Von Doom. Emperor Von Doom said, greetings to all, hail to Aeternia. Aeternia forever, Emperor Von Doom. Good to see you, and I hope Draconia is doing well. We just talked about our solar panel system, which you can see here. Again, we have a large battery bank set up. We are actively charging it. You can't see it very much, but all the way over there with a solar panel. Again, if you go back and watch the stream earlier, we talked about a lot of stuff dealing with economics that I think you would be interested in, and as well, I showed off the voltages and stuff dealing with that solar panel. Casnaria says, I won't ever deny having been part of it, I just can't afford to be seen as being childish, which is how most people view micronations. But again, just change the culture. You can do that very easily. Whitewind says, I'm sorry to head out of the stream so early, but I have to get ready to leave to jiu-jitsu. Good luck. Defend yourself. Be well. We'll see you soon. Beliga says, I'll look into it. Part of Beliga's 2027 plan is a power grid. I know, right, we have a lot of dates, so thank you for your help. Anytime. Good luck to getting to 2027. Furter says, damn, I hope it gets better soon. Thank you. Again, for the moment, it won't. Like again, we're in a rural area. It may not get better for years and years and years, but we're doing our best. Casnaria says, anyway, that was my last comment on the matter. We will just not be able to see it in the same way. Further talk on it can surely not be good for positive communication. I think it's important. AP is catching up. We better start talking, people. Again, I appreciate it. And again, no hate to you, Casnaria. No hate to you, fake name. I really appreciate you being here. You've been an incredible part of this community for a long time, and you've always supported us. So thank you. I appreciate your continued support. You watching the videos and doing things like that. But I don't understand why you have to leave micronationalism. A lot of people do that, where they will say, "Oh, micronationalism didn't work out for me. I have to leave and abandon it." But I think that's the time when you learned, right? If you did all these things in micronationalism and it didn't work out, then when you decide to leave micronationalism after you've had all those failures and you've learned, or you've just changed interest. It may not necessarily be that you failed in any way, but just that you did not want to do the same things anymore. If you do that, and then you leave the community after having learned all these valuable lessons, then you're not imparting those lessons onto the new people that come in, so they come in and they're in the same boat, struggling and seen as childish because they are still having to relearn those lessons that weren't ingrained further into the community. Further says, when does a micronation turn into a regular nation? Is it just recognition? It depends on your definition of a nation, and we have a whole video on that we just posted. We have a ton of videos on that. Go check them out. But I am getting heat exhaustion. I can feel myself overheating. It's an issue. So I'm going to head inside, get ready for hanging out later in the United States. But until then, I will see you guys next time. Aeternia forever. Peace, guys. I want to make sure it gets to the end of the video. Sometimes we cut out and it's not it's not done yet. There's a lag. Fake name says, my priorities shifted, and like I said, I still talk to the people in the community. Way, we appreciate you, for real. Unity says, I would think recognition to some degree, but again, it depends on your definition of a micronation, and ultimately a nation in general. But I appreciate you guys, and I will see you soon. Aeternia forever! Peace, everybody. Somebody tell me peace in the comments when you can, so that I know that, like, or bye or something. So that way I know that, like, you've gotten to that point. Hey, there we go. Okay, bye. See you guys.